with that down, but staying on the topic of that Marvel panel, Chris, what is our next main topic today?
Our next topic is coming from Andrew. Greetings and salutations. We are all excited for Marvel's Phase 4 slate. Some more than others, I guess. But the biggest and most surprising one that came from Marvel's SDCC panel is the announcement of Blade. Yes, Blade is coming back. And two-time Academy Award winner Marheshala Ali is also confirmed to be playing Blade. This got me really excited. What do you think of the news? And also, what do you think of the casting of Marheshala Ali? Thanks, and bring on the filthy. I know we started talking about this a little bit. This is definitely the thing I was most excited about. John, what do you think?
No doubt. No doubt. Like, okay, so take my overall, okay feeling about the overall Marvel panel. Absolutely, beyond question, 100%, beyond a shadow of a doubt. The highlight of that panel to me was, one, because it was completely unexpected, and two, the news itself carries such weight. Number one, Blade is coming back. Number two, it's being played by two-time Academy Award winner, one of the finest actors on the planet right now, Mahershala Ali. Oh my God. That was the part for me that went, this is what I have come to expect from a Marvel panel. But at any rate, I just thought it was outstanding for a couple of reasons. Again, number one, Blade. Blade is a celebrated character, maybe even amongst modern audiences, not so much because of his comic book roots, but because, you know, we've had the Wesley Snipes movies and a lot of people love them. Granted, you can make the argument that series petered out over a decade ago, but fine. Having Blade coming back, but putting a guy like Mahershala Ali in there, to me, is just 100% brilliant casting. There are probably a couple of other names, Rob, that they could have said, and I would have been just like, if they said, I mean, I don't know whether it was a Chiwetel Ejiofor, although he's already in the MCU, but there were probably a couple other names that I also would have been hyper excited about. But there's just something about Mahershala Ali playing this role that I think is absolutely fabulous. It does raise a couple questions. Number one, Mahershala Ali today is 45 years old. This movie is not coming out in the next couple of years. The earliest this Blade movie will come out is in 3 years. So he's going to be 48 years old when his first Blade movie comes out. That's interesting. It's just something to keep in mind. Again, I don't think it's the be-all, end-all. Ben Affleck was mid-40s starting to play Batman, and I thought that was great, and this can be great too. But, you know, considering today's comic book genre and the landscape of it, generally, you think if you're going to start a new character, you'll get a little bit younger. They're going to start with a guy who's going to be 48 when the first one comes out. So that's interesting. I still would go for it, and I would still do it. The other interesting thing this brings up is this. With Kevin Feige announcing Blade, that means this is going to be in the MCU. And if it's going to be in the MCU, if we take Bob Iger at his word, that kind of means this isn't going to be rated R. Now, granted, a lot of stuff can be done. Harker, Rob, you and I talk all the time about how, especially when you're dealing with monsters and robots and aliens, you can do a lot of brutal violence and the MPA will still give you a borderline PG-13, right? And so that's fine with me. But I do know a lot of people are going to probably get a little bit upset when they hear that, when they realize that Blade isn't going to be rated R. Remember, Bob Iger was very clear. We can do R-rated stuff. We just need to make sure we put it under a different brand like they're going to do with Deadpool, which is why they never mentioned Deadpool, because it's going to be a Fox film when they do Deadpool 3. And I kind of assumed that if they ever were going to do Blade, I assumed they would just do it like Deadpool. They're going to put it under the Fox banner, make it rated R. But by bringing it in the MCU, I think that's a pretty clear signal that they're going to make it PG-13, probably as edgy of a PG-13 as film as they've ever done. Remember, Wolverine was always PG-13 until Logan. They did Wolverine as PG-13 and everything in the X-Men, and they did some pretty violent stuff. So, I don't know, Rob, number one, I already know you love it, but go a little bit more into detail about what you think about the casting of Mahershala Ali, which to me is just the sky just exploded into a rainbow of light. And number two, where are you interested, or do you find it interesting that they're actually going to make it in the MCU as opposed to under a different brand?
Well, first of all, I love the story that was in the Hollywood Reporter about how Mahershala Ali, when he won the Oscar for Green Book, he actually called Kevin Feige for a meeting.
Yeah.
And he told him, I would really like to play Blade. And of course, that gives Kevin Feige an opening to, oh, I'm going to cast last year's Academy Award winner in the MCU to play Blade. So I think that's great. His age doesn't really bother me. Like, you know, vampires are immortal, right? So his age doesn't bother me so much. I mean, he's going to have to stay jacked to play the role well into his 50s, but that can be done. But I think this movie is, in fact, going to be R-rated because it's a vampire film. And I also think it's not going to cost nearly as much as what the MCU films have been costing, because it's more stripped down, it's more earthbound. There's not so, there's no cosmic visual effects. I mean, maybe at the end or something, but it's a vampire movie. It's going to be a horror film, balls to the wall, just like Marvel has pioneered other genres, whether it's a political thriller or a heist film. This is going to be their horror movie, and I think people are going to know that it's going to be R-rated. I wouldn't be surprised if they announced somebody like Guillermo del Toro coming in and directing this. Because I could see him wanting to come back and he obviously directed Blade 2. I could see him coming back. And I mean, you've got an Academy Award actor. Why not get Academy Award winning director to come in? I could see that happening. I'm really interested to see where they take this franchise. Hell, you could get Hannibal to come back from Blade 3, and you could if Deadpool's going to be part of whatever universe, why not? No, they're not going to do that. It's a bad idea. But I'm excited. I think it's great. I think it will be R-rated. I think it's going to be Blade, and it leads more into what they're going to do with Scarlet Witch and Doctor Strange. I think is going to actually, you're going to see a post-credit scene in that movie that leads directly into Blade. Whatever happens at Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is going to lead us into their horror realm. And at least that's what I would imagine. And I'm pretty excited about that.
I think you're insane. Well, first of all, I agree with everything you said, except for one thing that I think you're absolutely insane on. And by the way, Marvel and Kevin Feige, nobody has said at this point, we're years away from the movie happening. Nobody has said that this is going to be PG-13. Nobody said this is going to be rated R. Let's just be clear about that. But you basically just took what the high supreme lord and emperor of Disney, the guy that Kevin Feige has to genuflect to, Bob Iger, has clearly and explicitly said, we can do R-rated stuff, but we got to have it under another brand to avoid any confusion with our audience. Bob Iger is so over-the-top protective of that, because Bob Iger's not going to allow them to go, hey, families, come on in and see our MCU films, MCU film. Oh, we're going to slip in an R-rated MCU film. That's a part of our overall cinematic universe. No way Bob Iger allows that. And he's already said as much. So you're saying, you think Bob Iger, you're just going to take what Bob Iger said about that clearly, and you're just going to throw that away. You say, no, Bob Iger is going to be okay with selling to his audience. We have a family-friendly MCU. You can bring kids to our MCU and it's safe. And then as a part of that MCU, he's going to slip in R-rated stuff? I don't buy it. You gotta convince me about and I'm hoping to have my mind changed, Rob, but you gotta convince me Bob Iger's line of thinking that would make him do a complete 180 from what he said just a few months ago to allowing something like that now, because I just don't see him doing it.
Venom. I mean, Venom.
But that's why they're going to have R-rated material like Deadpool. That's going to put under another
I think
brand.
that Bob Iger's going to be like, yeah, we're gonna go into the horror direction. I mean, it doesn't matter what somebody says. At one time, things change. They're going to make
just a few months ago.
If they're going to make we didn't know about Blade until just now. I think it's going to be. You can't make a movie. I mean, you can, I guess. You could make Hammer horror movies, or Fright Night was PG-13, but this is Blade. I mean, Blade decapitates vampires. I mean, I don't understand how you could make a PG Blade movie that would be at all satisfying to an audience who's already seen 3 R-rated Blade movies.
Over a decade ago that died out.
I think this is going to be the MCU's first R-rated movie.
Listen, if I were Bob Iger, and let me rephrase, if Bob Iger were to call me and say, John, I've got 2 options here. We can make Blade and we're going to put him under the Fox banner and we're going to go full-blown R. Or we're going to bring him into the MCU and make it edgy PG-13. We're going to make it PG-13 in the MCU. What should we do? I would say go R and put him in, like, Deadpool's making all types of money. If they were going to bring any R-rated thing into the MCU, it would be Deadpool. It would be Deadpool. Everybody was screaming to see Deadpool interact with Spider-Man. Everybody's screaming to see Deadpool interact with these things. But Bob Iger drew a line and he said no. Deadpool, we can go rated R because it's going to make lots of money, but he's going to go over there and be under a different banner because I'm not going to confuse my audience and bring him into the MCU. Now, if he were to ask me, I'd say go R with Blade. But I just don't think that's what he's going to do.
I'll tell you something different, too. Deadpool has a lot of body humor. sexual humor.
But it's brutally violent too.
It is brutally violent, but
violent.
the thing is, Blade's Blade's not going to have any unless they're seducing Dracula or something. But Blade is not going to be making jokes about National Women's Day the way Deadpool does. And I think in our civilization here in America, you can kill as many people as you want, but you show a bare woman's breast and people go bananas. And I think that they'll get away with a Blade movie in the MCU, R-rated, because everyone knows vampires. Everyone loves vampires. Hell, we can have the evolution of the Twilight series. You know, if you were a young girl who was growing up reading Twilight, you're going to want to see a kick-ass, blood-drenched Blade film now that you're 30. And I think people are ready for an R-rated vampire movie in the MCU.
I'll tell you what, but I think one of those people is not Bob Iger. This is going to be one of those times, Rob, where I really hope you're right. Because again, if Bob Iger were to ask me, I would say go rated R. I really do. But I think everything we have seen Bob Iger say and do clearly points to he's not going to let an R-rated thing in the MCU itself. Like everything he has said, everything he has done, keeping Deadpool over there, points in the other direction. But I will desperately hope you're right. And again, let's be clear, everybody. They have not said, there's been no official statement about whether this Blade movie is going to be PG-13 or if it's going to be rated R. But remember, there are two different questions about what would you want it to be and what would Bob Iger actually make it be. Those are two separate questions. So I want to ask you guys, jump into the comments section.
And how long is Bob Iger going to head up Disney?
He'll still be the head of Disney by the time Blade comes out.
It's going to be him and Keith Richards and a cockroach at the end of the world. Come on.
Yes, I think it's so.
It's forever.
He's still going to be there. He makes the rules right now. By the time they start making it, he's still going to be on the throne. And I just think a lot of people are jumping to conclusions to answer the question by what they would want to see as opposed to what is Bob Iger going to allow. Because I'm with y'all on this as far as what I want to see. I am with you. I stand in solidarity. But I just don't, if I got to put my own opinion of it aside and just look at what's in front of me, I just don't see how he does it. But I hope that you are right. I hope that you were right. Question is, guys, what do you think Bob Iger's going to do? Do you think Bob Iger's going to say, yeah, let's just give us an R-rated Blade inside the MCU. Let's blow off the doors of bringing R-rated material into the MCU. Or do you think he's going to play it more close to the vest like he's done in the past? Do you think he's going to say, nope, if it's in the MCU, it's PG-13? What do you think he's going to do? We got a few years to find out. Rob clearly thinks they're going to go R. I hope he's right. I think Bob Iger's made it clear that they're not going to do that. I hope I'm wrong. What do you guys say? Jump in the comments section below and leave us your thoughts.